On example 3, we're trying to determine, based on the given information, if we can figure out which lines would be proven parallel, okay? Well, for part A, we're told that angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. Well, we can see that angle 1 and angle 5, those are corresponding angles because they're both in the same spot. And so if corresponding angles are congruent, then you know that the lines are parallel. Well, we can also see that our transversal in this case would be line M, because that's the line that both of them have in common. So the lines that would be parallel would be line J and line K. So since the corresponding angles are congruent, line J is parallel to line K. Okay? Well, from here, if we look at angle 3 and angle 13, if we could say angle 3 is congruent to angle 13, we can see those are alternate interior angles. Okay? So those are alternate interior angles. And the transversal that those would be using would be line J. Okay? So line J in this case is the line that both angles have in common. So the lines that would be proven parallel would be line P and line M, because those are the other two lines dealing with angles 3 and 13. So M is parallel to P. Okay. From here, if we say angle 16 and angle 9 are supplementary, then we know angle 16 plus angle 9, those are supplementary. Those are same side interior angles dealing with transversal P. Okay? So if our transversal is P, and these are the same side interior angles, angle 16 and angle 9, then we know that those, since they're same side interior or consecutive interior, then, consecutive interior angles imply that lines J and K would be parallel, because those are the two lines that include angle 16 and 9 on transversal P. Last one, angle 1 is congruent to angle 11. So we could say angle 1 is congruent to angle 11, and this would tell us that there's no relationship there, okay? Angle 11 is on lines K and P. Angle 1 is on lines J and M, so this one would be no relationship, means that there are no parallel lines based on that statement. Okay, so from here, let's come down and look at example 4. On example 4, you're given that line G is parallel to H because it's given. So you immediately want to come down and mark your picture with the arrows on both. That tells us that those are parallel to each other. Then we also know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 11, again because it's given, and we want to mark our picture. So if angle 1 is congruent to angle 11, they told us that because we couldn't have said that based on anything else. We want to prove that J is parallel to K. Well, we can start with what we know. We know angle 1 is congruent to angle 11, so let's take angle 1, and since line G and H are parallel, then angle 1 could be congruent to angle 15 by alternate exterior angles. Because if G and H are parallel, then J would be your transversal right here. And so we know those are alternate exterior angles. You could have also done one congruent to 13 by corresponding angles. So we could say angle 1 is congruent to angle 15 because parallel lines imply alternate exterior angles congruent. Okay? Now, 15, you know that if 1 is congruent to 15 and 1 is congruent to 11, then we can use our transitive property 11's congruent to 1, 1's congruent to 15, so you know angle 11 is congruent to angle 15 by your transitive property of congruence. You can't say that 15 is congruent to 11 by corresponding angles because we don't know if J and K are parallel yet. Okay, but now since 11 is congruent to 15 and those are corresponding angles, then you know that J has to be parallel to K because of the corresponding angles postulate, or because corresponding angles, congruent corresponding angles, implies lines parallel. Okay, so since the corresponding angles are congruent, you knew the lines had to be parallel. Now we've reached our proof statement. Okay, from here, the very last example, what you're going to look at is that you were given that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 by given. So I'm going to mark my picture. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Okay, that doesn't tell us anything. We also know that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 by given. So I'm going to mark that one. Okay, we're supposed to prove that XY is parallel to WV. Okay, so what I would do is go ahead and draw in your parallel lines, extend the lines. It will make it so much easier for you to see. So if we extend XY and we extend WV, these are the two lines that we want to prove are parallel. Well, if those two lines are parallel, we need a transversal. Well, transversal YW, we already have two angles marked, so this would be a good one to mark as our transversal, okay? Because once again, we already have two angles on WY marked. So if that's your transversal, the green dotted lines are your parallel lines. And again, I would extend the line on your picture as well. We can see that angle 2 and angle 3 are alternate interior angles. And so if angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, then, well, we can see that marked on our picture. Is it stated in our statements yet? No, but we know that since 2 is congruent to 1 and 1 is congruent to 3, then angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 by transitive property of congruence. Okay, from here, since alternate interior angles are congruent, you know the lines must be parallel. So we can say segment XY is parallel to segment WV because alternate interior angles congruent, or congruent alternate interior angles, implies parallel lines. Okay, so again, just extend the lines on your picture. You'll be able to see those angle relationships much easier.